Every April 20th, cannabis culture turns a number into a holiday. But 420 did not begin as a festival, a law, or a marketing campaign. It began as a school day code in Northern California, passed between 5 students who wanted to meet at 4:20 p.m. That tiny private joke would outlive the high school, outlive the counterculture that made it famous, and eventually become shorthand for a much bigger story about marijuana, medicine, and legalization. The most credible origin story for 420 traces back to 5 friends at San Rafael High School in Marin County. In 1971, they used 420 as a code for meeting after school at 4:20 p.m. to search for a rumored abandoned cannabis patch. The point was not a public holiday. It was a way to coordinate a very local plan. The code worked because it was simple, harmless-looking, and easy to repeat. Like a lot of slang, it was born in a small place and then escaped. 420 did not become famous overnight. The phrase spread through the Grateful Dead orbit and then into High Times, where it got repeated until the code stopped being a code and started being a symbol. By the time it reached the wider public, 420 had become a kind of annual shorthand for cannabis culture itself. That matters because symbols travel faster than facts. Once a number becomes a ritual, people attach their own meanings to it. Celebration, rebellion, nostalgia, humor, identity. The original inside joke was small. The cultural payload turned out to be much larger. Once the culture piece is clear, the harder question is what marijuana actually does. The honest answer is that some cannabinoid medicines have real FDA-recognized uses, but that is not the same thing as saying every cannabis product is medicine. FDA says it has not approved cannabis itself to treat any disease or condition. It has approved a small set of cannabinoid drugs, including Epidiolex, Marinol, Syndrose, and Sesamet. That is a narrow but important distinction. It means the medical conversation is real, but it has to stay specific. Marijuana helps is too broad. Certain cannabinoid medicines can help certain patients with certain problems. The other side of the story is not hype either. CDC says cannabis can affect memory, attention, decision-making, coordination, emotion, and reaction time. That is one reason driving after use is a bad bet. CDC also notes that cannabis use disorder is more likely with frequent use, youth onset, and highly concentrated THC products. Smoked cannabis can harm lung tissue, and edibles bring a different risk, delayed onset. People sometimes wait too little, take more, and end up far higher than they expected. That's how a pleasant edible can turn into a poisoning scare. So yes, marijuana can have medical uses, but it can also create very real problems depending on dose, age, route of use, and product strength. Legally, marijuana in the United States lives in 2 worlds. Federally, DEA still classifies marijuana as Schedule 1, which means no currently accepted medical use and a high potential for abuse. But many states have built their own systems on top of that federal baseline. NCSL reported that, as of June 26, 2025, 40 states, 3 territories, and the District of Columbia allowed medical use. And 24 states, 3 territories, and D.C. allowed adult use. That is why the country feels split, one map for state law, another for federal law. In May 2024, DOJ proposed moving marijuana to Schedule 3, but that proposal is not the same thing as a final rule. Until the process ends, the federal baseline stays where it is. So where does this go next? The safest forecast is incremental change. States are still updating cannabis policy, which suggests the center of gravity keeps moving toward regulation, not reversal. Federal reform is still unresolved, so the next steps are more likely to be rescheduling, banking fixes, research access, product rules, and enforcement changes before any clean national legalization moment. That's an inference, not a promise. But it fits the pattern we already see. Culture moved first, states move next, and federal law is still catching up. 420 started as a private code. Marijuana became a public health question. Legalization became a national policy fight. And the most honest way to describe the future is this: it probably will not happen all at once. It will happen one law, one rule, and one state at a time.